And never in a million years would I peg myself for doing that if you were to ask my high school self that. And then there's still more, right? That door isn't closed. There's a whole lot that still can be done.
How does a boy from New Orleans go from trapping frogs in his backyard to a veterinary ophthalmologist who has examined bald eagles, snow leopards, Asian elephants, and tigers, and who is now reshaping how general practitioners across the country get access to specialist support? Welcome to Vet Life Reimagined. I'm Dr. Megan Sprinkle, and this week's guest is Dr. Kenneth Pierce. He's a board-certified veterinary ophthalmologist, founder of Veterinary Vision Center in Louisiana, and creator of Vespicon, Veterinary Specialty Consultants, a platform that connects general practitioners with specialists on demand. In this conversation, we cover a lot of ground. Dr. Kenneth shares how a mentor in New Orleans, the only African-American veterinarian in the city at the time, shaped how he sees his role in the profession. He tells us about opening a practice in the middle of a pandemic to serve a region that had never had a permanent ophthalmologist, and what it felt like to have someone thank him for being there every single day. We also dig into what it really takes to build a business in veterinary medicine, how he thinks about AI and the future of the profession, and the advice he gives to every veterinarian who's quietly wondering if they're making enough of a difference. So let's get to the conversation with Dr. Kenneth Pierce. When did you know you were even interested in veterinary medicine?
Yeah, thank you. It's an honor to be here. So my journey as far as knowing I wanted to be in veterinary medicine actually started, I grew up in New Orleans and around first or second year of high school, wanted to be a doctor, but didn't want to work on people. Around the junior year, my cousin sat me down and mainly had a conversation with me about like focusing on the future, where I want to be. And steered me towards veterinary medicine because he saw in me that I liked animals as well as I would like capture frogs and lizards in the backyard and hold them hostage for a couple of days, looking at them and things like that and then let them go. So that just evolved into figuring out who I can get further experience from. And at the time in New Orleans, the only African American veterinarian was George Robinson. So I spent some time with him as well as did a little summer program at Tuskegee at their vet STEM program at the time there. And so that kind of cultivated the whole interest in veterinary medicine. And then from there was applying and see where we go.
Yeah. How did you find that veterinarian locally? Was he your veterinarian for your pets, or how did you find out about them?
No, so that's another kind of unique thing is my mom didn't allow me to have a dog or a cat growing up, which is why I was like trapping things in the backyard. So I think that all came about through, and it was around the time of that summer program with Tuskegee and Philip Mitchell, I believe, was the administrator at the time. He had mentioned George Robinson's name to either me or my family. And then from there, we had reached out and got connected. And I started all shadowing George Robinson to becoming this kennel tech to main nurse to I'm his mentee or was his mentee. And now it's good friends. It's great.
Sorry. Yeah, we all started cleaning kennels and all.
Right.
Yeah. Do you remember anything specifically from watching him as a veterinarian that kind of impacted you on maybe continuing to down that path, or anything that you remember from him?
Yeah. So he definitely was instrumental in just providing clear optics and good guidance on what it takes to be a veterinarian, to be a practice owner, to be, the lifeline for the pet parents and the public and what education looks like for them. Cause, a lot of everything that we do is educating the pet parent more than actually treating the animal. Treating the animal sometimes is the easier thing than the education aspect of it. So, and again, starting out with him really just opened my eyes to all that is what it even entails from just, again, people management too, right? And I've seen a lot of staff over the years, this is over at least a good 5-year stint of working with him prior to going away for undergrad and even during undergrad, coming back for summers, just seeing how you interact with your team, interact with your clientele, and so forth. So it was good. It helped me to give me focus on where I wanted to go with my career, which was to aim for becoming a specialist. And not to say that, being a generalist, like it threw me away from that, but I had the desire after starting with him to always kind of take it to the next level and see how I can push myself, that goes.
And you were at least observant enough to get the whole picture about being a veterinarian. It is beyond the medicine, education, leadership, management, running a practice and a business. All of those things are all part of it.
And one thing that he was really an advocate for was like sitting down, like he took the time to pour into me. So there were several times where, like, after we worked this long day, like we would just sit down and just talk about the day or talk about life or talk about history or what have you, and really poured into me as a mentor to open my eyes, right? I'm a naive kid. I think I came to him starting out saying I wanted to be a snake doctor. And he was like, hold on, Ian, that's well and good, but let's really focus on like what can set you up for long term. Not to take that away from any herpetologists that are listening, but yeah, it takes that type of person, that type of mentorship to really set people up for success. I appreciate him for that.
Yeah, it also highlights to me all the value from a general practitioner. I've interviewed a lot of people, and a lot of people's early stories on their way to becoming a veterinarian involved a general practitioner.
Yeah.
So they're very important, including for our pipeline. Being willing to sit down with somebody beyond just having them shadow you, but to like explain things and to care enough to ask you like, what are you interested in, and give you a full picture is really, really cool of him.
Yeah.
So you had a good start even before getting into vet school, and you mentioned snake doctor, maybe expanding your options, but you went into vet school. It sounds like you were interested in specializing, but what was that experience?
Yeah. So high school went to the Tuskegee summer program for Vet Step, and that gave me a good idea of like what admissions looked like and so forth. Then I went to Tuskegee for undergrad and then LSU for vet school. Because I'm from New Orleans, obviously, in-state tuition, take advantage of that opportunity. And at LSU, it was great from a standpoint of now I've got kind of two different aspects of what veterinary medicine looks like, because I have all of my friends from Tuskegee's undergrad that went on to Tuskegee's vet school, and then my experience at LSU. So there was a fair bit of kind of collaborative study and what have you going on there, which was unique and helpful as well in the road of thinking about what I wanted to specialize in. Early on, I was really interested in neurology, and then like cardiology was kind of second. And at LSU at the time, the neurology and ophthalmology class were combined. And as everybody know, the coursework is condensed. And so over however many weeks we had of those two combined classes, ophthalmology just like came very easily to me. Even though it's a totally new language and unique organ system, it was great. And then seeing that came so readily and easy to me, and then comparing what the life looks like as an ophthalmologist, I, pursued that further. So kind of network with places that, obviously had ophthalmologists, near my externships and internships towards at least facilities that had that kind of opportunity there, even though I wasn't going for ophthalmology specifically, but spent, and while I'm on this internal medicine rotation, we'll sneak over to see what the ophthalmologists are doing and so forth. From there, I was like, ophthalmology is just jump the gun in front of everybody, and that's where I want to be. And so did an internship at University of Tennessee, then an ophthalmology specialty internship in Southern California, and then residency at Michigan State, and got boarded in 2011. Been killing it ever since.
You went all over.
Yeah.
I always think it's neat to be able to have the diverse experience of how people do things differently, because you can be trained at one place to then go somewhere else and they have different ways of doing things. And it's kind of good to see that and then kind of find what works for you. But I'm so curious with ophthalmology. I'm a nutritionist, so there's not very many of us. There's less than 100. Can you help us understand what does the field of ophthalmology, like what size is it, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So just like nutrition, we are in great demand, which is great. And so we appreciate everybody for that. It gives us a little bit of job security. But currently, the college is a little over 700 members there.
Okay.
And we are building our diversity, I would say. When I got boarded in 2011, I was the third boarded ophthalmologist, the first male boarded. In between the first female, Tracy King, and then Terry Gibson, the second female, there's a 10-year gap, and then a 10-year gap until I got boarded. So yeah, so you can do the math. And then now there's about, I think, close to 11 African American veterinary ophthalmologists in the nation. So we still make up 1% of the college, if that. So anyway, I say all that to say that there is definitely room to grow, and there's a lot of opportunity out there for anybody. And we do have a fair bit of international diplomates as well as dual American and European college diplomates as well. So yeah, that's where we are.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that you felt like, especially even in the coursework and everything, it came really natural to you. What are some other things that you think are interesting benefits, like unique things about ophthalmology? So if somebody is like, I don't know, like maybe I'll be interested in it. What are some things that you might be able to share that would help people maybe know if that would be an interesting path for them?
Yeah. One thing that was like a common thread and denominator with me, and what I didn't realize initially going into ophthalmology, that plays a huge factor, is genetics. And the reason why I say that, so during undergrad, I actually worked with a chicken genomics lab and was doing a little chicken genomics kind of mapping there in undergrad. And as we're going through ophthalmology and learning about it, a lot of our purebred diseases and a lot of translational diseases that happen in people are very similar gene mutations that happen in animals. And so after becoming a specialist and learning more, and actually during my residency, my master's project dealt with one of the gene mutations that causes retinitis pigmentosa in people that corgis that as an animal model for. And so utilizing them to determine if certain drugs will interact and cause worsening of sight deficits that could potentially affect people that are afflicted with this condition. This further was a wow factor and further drove that interest into what I'm doing, like really has an impact. So people who are interested, so that's one aspect for ophthalmology. If you're interested, like that plays a huge factor. Obviously, the work-life balance. You do get emergencies, and there's definitely times where things need to be seen right away. We need to intervene, and that can make a huge impact on the success of that patient's sight or just having an eye. But then, we're not bombarded with emergencies like criticalists, and so you can still have a nice life, still make a great living, and be versatile within the ophthalmology specialty, right? Be academics, be private practice, be in research industry as an ophthalmologist as well. People are doing other things as an ophthalmologist, myself included.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
One of the things I've heard one person say who's an ophthalmologist that they really liked about the specialty is the diversity of species you can also work on
Yes.
too. So also coming from your interest and I don't know how many reptiles you work on, but she was able to work on horse and cow eyes as in addition to like dogs and cats. So it allowed for a lot of diversity when it came to your patients. So I don't know if you have a range of patients that you see or.
Yeah. And that I 100% agree with that. That was actually one of the criteria of, as I was looking at specialties, of where my interest would lie, and not being strictly restricted to dogs and cats was part of that. And so in ophthalmology, again, this little kid from New Orleans who is trapping lizards and frogs in the backyard, to now as an ophthalmologist seeing not only like dogs, cats, or horses on a daily basis, but like raptors, eagles, bald eagles, owls. I've looked at camels, tigers, snow leopards, lions, bears, baboons, mandrills, chimpanzees, shoot, you name Asian elephants. Like
That's
it's
really
like, again, never in a million years would I've pegged myself for doing that if you were ask my high school self that.
Right.
So again, just that opportunity of being able to do that. And then there's still more, right? That door isn't closed. There's a whole lot that still can be done. So it's cool.
You have one patient story in particular that you'll just never forget. It just kind of stays with you.
Oh,
It doesn't have to be a crazy animal. I'm just kind of curious what would be like a favorite that of yours.
you, the ones that stand out are the ones where you made a huge impact into not only the animal life but that pet parent's life, right? There are several cataract surgery patients that the owners, this is their family, right? And it's diabetic, it's gone blind. Now they having to change how to manage them, and then we do cataract surgery, and then the next day they pick them up and like they running down the hallway again, and they're back to being the young puppy that they were at 12 years of age, right? Or the glaucoma cases, which are, few or far between, because glaucoma is such a terrible disease that when we have the ones that we can actually intervene when they're still sighted and keep them sighted for a while, those are great. It's also great when we barely see them because they're managing well, and we barely see those clients. So when we do see them, it's like, yeah, great, all right, I'll see you in like 6 months. You're doing great. That's always a success and a good, like, something to really reflect on and consider, right? Like how much of an impact you do have, right? Versus taking the time. We always see the ones that aren't doing so good and we get down on ourselves and it's like, oh my God. But it's those ones that we barely see that, yeah, we really made a difference. So those are, I would say, probably stand out the most.
Well, that's helpful too because those are probably the common cases that people might be interested in referring to from a general practice standpoint. So, I mean, speaking of referring and kind of pivoting a little bit in your own career path, you do develop a different type of referral platform. So, do you mind sharing how that came about?
Yeah. So after, so obviously I've already kind of toured half the middle to kind of Western and Midwestern half of the United States. After residency, I went back down to LSU, was faculty there for almost 2 years, and then decided to go into private practice and, move things along further. So I was practicing out in New Jersey at Garden State for 5, Dallas for 3, and then little beknownst to me that the pandemic was going to happen was exiting the practice in Dallas and came upon an opportunity to bring ophthalmology to Shreveport, Louisiana, and the East Texas, Northern Louisiana, Southern Arkansas region that has never had a permanent ophthalmologist there. So people were driving 4 hours in either direction to seek opto care. And open July 1, again, in the heart of the pandemic when everybody is sheltering in place and all that. And so as soon as we opened July 1, it was like busy as all get out and has been that way ever since. And every day on a daily basis, I get doctors as well as clients saying, thank you for being here. So that in itself was now filling my cup because, again, now I'm even having more of an impact on this community. And so looking at that and seeing this community that has, it's not rural, but it's not in the metropolitan area, so suburban maybe, doing their level best, maybe have access to veterinary specialists, but don't have access to everybody in that respective field. And hearing and talking to some general practitioners about some of the issues that they had with the current consultation services or issues of, clients not wanting to drive to go see a specialist if they could do it in-house and so forth, kind of all what that entails. So hearing that, given out consultations in the past, I figured there's got to be a better, more personal approach to doing that. So I just established Vespicon, which is the acronym for Veterinary Specialty Consultants. And I created this firm, for lack of a better word, of just veterinary specialists of all fields for large, small, and exotics, where doctors or hospitals can utilize us as a subscription member or individually and get consultations and have a real, just genuine personal conversation with one or multiple specialists at a time. So if you got a really complex case, and get your questions answered. Talk about topics, talk about whatever needs to be discussed. And the doctors get their recording, they get a brief summary. If there's supplemental information that needs to be shared, it's easily shared through our platform. And we just break down that barrier of access to specialists, as well as like the barrier for the client, right? The client is now able to get that specialist level care locally, wherever they are, even if they're in a metropolitan area or rural. And even if it's a seasoned vet or new veterinarian, the level of education, the level of empowerment that we provide, actually 95% of the advisors that we have are people that I've either worked with or taught during my career that are like-minded like me to help the veterinary community in educating and giving them a lifeline, right? Because the industry has done really well with making sure our staff is supported, making sure like our clients are supported, but the veterinarians, we got to make sure that they are supported and have that resource when they need it and make it easy. So.
And general practitioners can do so much, but at the same time, you can't do everything. Like you can't have that many reps like a specialist can. So the ability to call someone and get the support, it sounds amazing. I don't remember this part when we had talked before. The fact that you get the recording is neat, because then it's like if you were freaking out in the middle of the call, you can go back and listen to it or watch it. And, I interviewed Dr. Aaron Smiley. It's been a while since I interviewed him, but he talked about so highly about doing teleconsultant vet to vet, because he also talked about not only was it great for him to be able to help his patient, he learned every time he talked to a specialist. So he was growing as a practitioner. It doesn't mean that you won't need a specialist ever again, but, like maybe you can be quicker to explain to the pet parent about options and things like that. So
Yeah.
that it really is nice to feel like I can just pick up a call. And I had a friend who posted on LinkedIn not long ago complaining about trying to call university to talk to a specialist, and
Yeah.
a picture of how long he had been on the call and not getting help. And he said it was an emergency situation too. So like you're really desperate sometimes. So
Yeah.
having a reliable place to someone who can support you exactly when you need it.
Yeah, and we are strictly like all concierge, all white glove. The way you utilize this is all based off of when the general practitioner is available. So they're not wasting time trying to get somebody. Y'all tell us, and your nursing team or the doctor can go on our website, vetswithcon.com, and just tell us who you need, when you need us, whether it's an emergency or same day non-urgent or several days in advance. And then we get you linked up. And so we do get those testimonials a great deal about. It's pretty much like on demand CE. And we have several doctors that have had a great conversation, had a great experience, learned so much, but maybe couldn't implement it right then and there because maybe it was a terminal situation, or maybe it was the owners just couldn't move forward, right? Or for whatever reason. But when that next case came in, they already got it. They are already confident. They already know what to do. And that is making them better doctors, making them more productive, making their patients have, better outcomes. And there are some significant success stories that I wish I could just like put out there, all videos in the world. But it's really cool to see the impact that just advice has.
Do you want to
Well,
share one that's
yeah, there is so there's two that I always go to, because in my eyes, when I saw them, it was like I'm not a general practitioner. So this might be a general practitioner might be like, yeah, that's easy. But for me as an ophthalmologist who only focus in this region of the body, I was like, oh, this is way out of my realm. So one was this Chihuahua, I forget, it was definitely older than middle age, that had bilateral inguinal hernias, but it also had other comorbidities. And it was sent from one general practitioner to this other GP hospital that was a member with us. And with their membership, they have unlimited consultations, right? So when the referral came in, the records came in, the doctor, who was the average surgeon, he wasn't like this known stellar surgeon for the hospital or anything like that, but just a good, solid GP. He took the case, he consulted with one of our surgeons about everything, and they devised a surgical plan prior to even the client coming. So already they're ready. Box checked. Part of the plan was for them to get some a little additional diagnostic imaging, and this facility had a CT scan. So he gets the CT, does this physical and all that other stuff, and then has a recheck consultation with the surgeon after acquiring that information. And they totally revised the plan with additional biopsies based off of the stuff that was going on, and then take the dog to surgery. Surgery goes great, dog heals up well, comorbidities resolved, $7,000 in, owner paid, all done at the GP hospital. Owners are happy. It did not need to go down the road to the surgery specialties and or what have you. The other one that's probably even more impactful is another dog that was older, had several comorbidities, liver, kidney, gallbladder, and like something else going on, and has been managed by this hospital for a while. This younger doctor, maybe 2-3 years out from vet school, that is managing the case and doing well. And in the course of things, I think the dog needed to have his gallbladder removed. The dog codes twice. He's able to get him back on Vespercon on emergency with our criticalists, managing the patient on several consultations with internists or what have you. This dog lives another 2 years with everything that is going on with this owner. I think for the length of this dog's stint with this hospital, and obviously Vespercon was just mainly there at the end, but I think these owners spend like definitely over 40, maybe 50 grand with this hospital. And again, was super excited, super happy about that the hospital had access to specialists in that was instrumental in keeping their dog alive for those last 2 years, right? When things were really looking bad. And again, that doctor, 2-3 years out, and she was knowledgeable, she was smart, she was a good doctor, she was receptive to advice and confident, as well as able to build on her confidence, right? She wasn't overly confident or anything like that. But what I've learned is that, as human beings, we've got to be vulnerable. We've got to be open to receiving advice and information, as well as to know, like, sometimes you know what you're doing and you just need somebody to say, yeah, you're right. Like, carry on. Like, I wouldn't do anything different. You've done everything, right? You just need that reinforcement. So having that kind of mentality, being open to those types of things, it just sets you up for success, right? And be just happy to be that resource for those people when we can.
You're making me like wish my personal doctor had access to this, the panel of specialists.
Seriously.
So much faster. Can we like bring it to human medicine?
Yeah, that is one thing that we're missing. Like, when is our healthcare going to get up to that level, right? We only get that when we in the emergency room or when we need some major surgical procedure that requires all those others. But if our PCP could have that well in advance, right, then that will save a lot of people.
Yeah. And in human medicine, it probably comes with like a whole parade of interns and residents. And
right.
And you're right. Like, we all have our roles in veterinary medicine. So the more that we can work together collaboratively, the better that we're supporting everybody involved. And of course, especially the pet owner and the pet. So, well, one of the things I've also noticed about you, and, we met at Western and we're walking down the hall and you everybody is walking down the hall. You make great connections and relationships. And you mentioned like the other specialists that are part of the company are all ones that you've personally worked with in some form or fashion and gotten to know. So has that been a big part of your journey? Do you mind sharing a little bit about how you've been able to make such great connections?
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe, my mom raised me right or something. I have always, so typically I'm a humble guy. I've got people now that's like, you need to come out of this shell and really do more, what have you. But I'm always humble and respectful and listen to folks, as well as reflect on these interactions that I have with people. And I've been fortunate enough, at least over the years, to really forge relationships with these specialists that are doing great things and that, again, are like like-minded. And it was just an easy ask with this concept of, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. Are you willing to take this ride with me? And I'm just asking for a little bit of your time, right? And so for them to put their trust and their time in me and trying to do something to help the profession, to help their fellow veterinarian, speaks volumes. And so fortunately for Best Kind, it helped us establish a solid foundation very easily of like the main staples of specialties. And then we've been able to build on that by bringing on more and more people that I've known over the years, or getting to a point where as we are going around exhibiting or speaking engagements and people learning that, Vespa exists, that reduced some of my workload of having to recruit. And now we're getting that more organic interest, which is great because that is helping us as we are continuing to grow and get members to stay ahead of the curve and be able to service the veterinary community. So everything's coming to fruition. And then we've also been able to kind of build out and expand into other avenues like a business advisory arm or providing insurance appeal claim reviews for insurance companies and CE for various companies and groups and hospitals and so forth. So it's awesome. It's amazing. There's a lot of opportunity out there. And if any specialists are listening and trying to do some consulting, just feel free to reach out.
A couple questions from that. One,
Yeah.
you brought up the other services that you offer too. So I was curious about having a business. It's hard. The more you pile on to what the business offers, the more complex. And then,
Yeah.
I've talked to an entrepreneur that he even said, I overdid it. I did too much. So how do you know, how did you decide what and when to add like a new service?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So definitely I had a strategic plan starting out, and it was the consultation. We also a concierge referral service, which also sets us apart for, hospitals speaking about them being productive and efficient. Part of the biggest bottleneck at the time was getting into specialty hospitals or getting that client in, right? Certain regions, it's not too bad, but some you might be 3 to 4 weeks down the road and that animal's illness may be the betterment of them, right? By that time. So our goal was, we'd help veterinarians and the pet parent with the initial management of that case up to the veterinarian hospital's limit of what can be done there. And then we help book timely referrals to specialty hospitals for the practice of the doctor. After that consultation and this dean that needs to be referred, they get back to practicing and being productive, and we will help with that transfer. So that's less time that they have to deal with that. But I would tell you, we rarely do that because we do the consultation so well. So that was the initial start. And then one of our radiologists is a really good dear friend of mine for many years. Why not add on some teleradiology and telecardiology? Because, why not? We have all the specialties. That is a simple ask. And I'm not trying to be a full teleradiology company, but if you could have it all in one place and consult with your radiologist on a more personal level, then hey, that's an added benefit, right? So we started with that and began, and then the CE aspect of it was also in the background for Vespacon 2.0 or 3.0, but it actually came a lot faster because of demand. So people were reaching out and so forth. And so that became very easy. And same thing about the insurance appeal claim reviews that came out of just opportunity. A company reached out and was like, hey, we need some help. And yeah, we got it. We could do it. So those kind of came out of just opportunity and being open for that. Then the business advisory arm was just more strategic as we grew our numbers and grew our clinical aspect and thinking about who we're servicing, the veterinarian and veterinary hospital practice owner or group. We got to thinking, not everybody may have everything that they need from a business standpoint. You might have that business advisor, that legal, that CPA, but you may not have an HR specialist, or you may not have a social worker, or what have you. Or when you're dealing with issues with the team, or what have you, how do you navigate that and where do you go? So that all came about strategically of kind of expanding our access and where are the bottlenecks within the industry, and how can we make that more easily available to people.
Offering so many different services, and you have to understand your customer that you're serving, so you probably understand a lot about what's going on in veterinary medicine. And there's so much going on right now. It's kind of a crazy and exciting time in veterinary medicine. But kind of, if you think about the future and you can just pick whatever you're most interested in and really are noticing about veterinary medicine, what are you kind of seeing for the future? What are people talking about? What are people concerned about?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. I would tell you, so I would take this with a grain of salt. I'm not obviously the expert on the futurist view of veterinary medicine, but I think we are in a unique time where we are embracing technology even further, and in a aspect of making everything that we do more efficient and being more proficient at how we practice. And I think as we do that, then we need to also like bolster the level and quality of care that we provide. Because as the pet parent, now we've got AI, we've got everything in the palm of our hands. So if I can go on an AI system and, said symptoms that I'm noticing in my dog, and then it shoots out a whole list of diagnoses, and I take that to my veterinarian, now we've got to, as a general practitioner or even as a specialist, be able to justify it objectively, like why you should trust me, right? And then not in a bad way, it's actually in a good way, is being able to now, again, kind of elevate what we do, show the quality of why we practice, why we became veterinarians, why we are here to service these animals as well as, the pet parent. I think it's we will make veterinary medicine even more valid as a profession. And, people want quality, they pay for quality. That also shines a light on us as individuals that it's okay to charge for our quality. And the whole, prices within veterinary medicine is people have their feelings about that, but that is also being evaluated, right, amongst the world's climate and what's happening. So yeah, it's very interesting. It's definitely dynamic and will continue to evolve. But I think definitely technology is pushing an envelope and in a good way. And I think it's to the betterment of everybody.
When I look at your business model, I think it's fascinating. I can see how many different people you're supporting, from the veterinarian to the pet to the pet owner, right? Like, there's so many things. But I'm curious, and being a business owner, and especially like an entrepreneur like this, it's no joke. There's some hard things to it. What is it that kind of keeps you going every single day?
Yeah, I think even for my clinical business at Veterinary Vision Center, I think I get refueled by the feedback and seeing the why come to fruition of why I'm doing this. Before Vesperkind, when it was just my clinical practice, like I said, the doctors and clients on a daily basis, outside of just the patient's success and such, for them to just say, thank you for being here, right? I've been in New Jersey, I've been in Dallas as far as practicing residency and all that. Rarely or infrequent did that happen, right? But to move to this area and on a daily basis, at least one person say that is just filling the cup. And with VesperCon, it's the testimonies, it's the feedback, it's talking to some of our members after they start with us and hearing them just say, you know, we love it. It's easy. I love speaking with Dr. Stokes. Oh my God, she like is amazing. Or Dr. Cummings had me laughing after we talked about kidney disease, or what have you, is a different kind of conversation, but it's still like there is that impact, right? There is that experience that happens, that joy, that confidence that's built. And again, it's the why, right? We're making a difference. Small difference here and there, but those small wins add up over time.
Absolutely. So, as we're kind of coming to a close on our conversation, is there anything that we haven't covered that you really want to emphasize, whether it's things you've learned from your career journey or things that you would like to give to the veterinary listeners?
The thing that comes to mind just having this conversation for the veterinary listeners out there is keep at it. You're doing a great job. Self-reflect. Think about all of the impact that you have, even though you don't see it. You are impactful. Celebrate the small wins, right? And again, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes we can get down on ourselves of that one case that is stressing us out that we just can't seem to get over or get right, or it's just constantly coming back, or yada yada yada. That's okay. That is why we practice medicine. We are here to get through the trenches, then get that pet over the hurdle. But the small wins of when it does happen, or you've made somebody's kid smile because they see themselves in you, or you talk with the specialist and now you know that you've been doing exactly what you needed to do, right? Uh, so those type of
That's a good
things,
feeling.
right. So definitely celebrate yourself, celebrate those good wins. Don't be afraid to reach out if you ever need help, no matter what service. And what a time to be alive. Thank you for just being a veterinarian, for being you, for doing what you do. And if you ever need me or my team, we're here for you.
You've already expressed several gratitudes, but if you think about the first thing that comes to your mind, what is something you're really grateful for right now?
I am grateful for my wife and family for giving me the opportunity to do all these things. And just life, and for the profession and career that I'm in. Again, like I never thought, from being from New Orleans and growing up, that I would be here, and all the doors that have been open to me and continue to be open. And so just humble and thankful for everybody that has helped me along the way, or does business with me and all that. Just thank you.
No matter your role in veterinary medicine, you are making a difference. I hope you find a way that allows you to fill your cup like Dr. Pierce. All links and resources mentioned in this episode are in the show notes. And if you want to get even more out of this conversation, check out our new podcast club guide. Last week was our inaugural guide as part of the Sprinkle of Wisdom Substack. The guide pulls out the key insights from the episode and gives you reflection questions to help you apply them to your own vet life journey, whether you're listening solo or discussing it with a group. So find that in the show notes as well. Until next time, keep reimagining what's possible in veterinary life.